Hello everyone, and welcome to How-FixIT. If your PS5's thermal pads have dried out or degraded, causing poor heat dissipation, higher temperatures, and even thermal throttling or shutdowns, or if you simply want better thermal performance, this video is for you. In this guide, I'll show you how to replace the thermal pads on your PlayStation 5 step by step to restore proper cooling, protect internal components, and prevent performance drops or system crashes. This guide covers the 2022 revision of the original PlayStation 5. Check the model number on the bottom of your console. The code starts with CFI, followed by numbers and a letter. This video applies to models such as CFI-1215A or CFI-1216A and others. If your code ends with the letter B, Digital Edition, this guide still applies. If you have a 2020 or 2021 model, such as CFI-1015 or CFI-1116, use my separate video. The link is in the description. Before we get started, here's what you'll need. A screwdriver set with Torx T8 security and Phillips No. 1 bits. Plastic opening tools, tweezers, and an anti-static brush. Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut, only needed if you're also servicing the APU interface. I'll be using Thermal Putty to replace the pads, and I'll explain during the process which materials and thicknesses are best for the PS5. Isopropyl alcohol, 90% or higher, and cotton swabs for surface preparation. I've included links to all the tools in the video description below. I also highly recommend using a magnetic mat. The PlayStation 5 uses many screws of different sizes. Organizing them prevents mix-ups and makes reassembly easier. A magnetic mat helps you prevent them from getting lost, since they stay attached to the mat. It's a simple but very helpful tool when working on complex devices. Alright, let's begin. Place the console on its side with the disk drive facing up, lift the top left corner of the faceplate to unclip it, slide it to the right, and remove it. Peel up the wire cover, then disconnect the fan cable from the motherboard. Insert a spudger under the grill and remove it. Remove the 4 fan screws and lift the fan out. Throughout this service, keep track of each screw and make sure it goes back exactly where it came from to avoid damaging your console. Loosen the expansion slot cover screw and remove the cover. If you have an M2 SSD installed, remove it. Remove the 11 screws securing the case. There's a single screw hidden under the warranty sticker. Lift it with tweezers and remove the screw. Remove the top plastic cover. Disconnect the optical drive ribbons. On the first connector, press the metal locking tab with tweezers and pull the blue tabs straight out. The second cable pulls straight up. Remove the optical drive. Disconnect all antenna leads and the LED ribbon table from the motherboard. Remove 5 screws holding the metal cover and lift it off. Unlock the USB board connector by pushing the metal latch up. While it's unlocked, pull the cable straight out. Pull the blue tab to disconnect the power and eject button ribbon cable. Remove the 2 screws that secure the motherboard to the case. One quick note. This guide doesn't cover a full teardown to access the heatsink and power supply vents for deep dust cleaning. The PS5 pulls air through both the heatsink and the power supply, allowing dust to accumulate on the bottom of the case, within the power supply, and in its vents. Clean the power supply vents and the heatsink fins first. Otherwise, no thermal pad upgrade will help if the cooling path is clogged with dust. If your PS5's cooling system needs a thorough clean, watch my separate console maintenance guide. The link is in the video description below. To access the motherboard, remove the 26 screws securing the top shield plate, then use a spudger to work around the perimeter and lift it free. The thermal pads bond the plate to the board, so expect some resistance. Thermal pads located on the back of the top shield plate help transfer heat from the motherboard. Over time, they can lose elasticity, which reduces heat transfer. You'll find similar pads on the back of the motherboard as well. We'll remove the motherboard and replace those first, then come back to these pads. Remove the 2 screws on the tension bracket, alternating turns to keep pressure even. Don't remove one screw fully before the other, or you risk damaging the main processor. Take your time. A slip screwdriver can scratch the board and cause permanent damage. If you need to clean the motherboard, use only an anti-static brush. Remove the 2 more screws that secure the motherboard to the case. Gently lift the bottom right corner of the board with a spudger to clear the power supply prongs. Remove the main board, flip it over, and carefully lay it on the housing. We now have access to the APU and the cold plate. If you don't have fresh liquid metal, you can carefully respread the existing liquid metal across the APU and the cold plate to restore even coverage. If you prefer to replace it, here's the step-by-step process coming up. Degrease the APU die and heatsink cold plate using isopropyl alcohol, 90% or higher, with cotton swabs. Clean the APU surface until mirror bright. Clean the cold plate the same way. If you see a bubble of old liquid metal while wiping, you can collect it with a syringe, but don't mix it with the fresh tube. Attach the micro tip to your liquid metal tube. Apply 1 small drop to the APU surface, enough to cover the surface in a thin film. Too much can pool or pump out, reducing contact. If you overshoot, collect the excess with a syringe. Use lint-free or purpose-made swabs. Regular cotton can shed fibers. Spread the liquid metal into a thin, even layer over the entire APU surface. No clumps, no bare spots. Apply a small amount to the cold plate and spread thinly. The goal is to fill microscopic gaps, not create a thick layer. Now let me show you how to check the thermal pads. Lightly press each pad to test compression. If it doesn't spring back, feels too thin, or is dry, crumbly, and has poor tack, it's time to replace it. The pads in this video are still flexible and transferring heat well, but I'll replace them anyway to demonstrate the process. Now, let me explain why Thermal Putty is a better choice than traditional thermal pads for the PS5. Thermal pads are available in various thicknesses, ranging from 0.5mm to 3mm, and must be cut to precise shapes for different components. The PS5 uses multiple pad thicknesses across the board, which makes finding exact aftermarket matches tedious and easy to get wrong. If a pad is too thin, it won't make proper contact. If it's too thick, it puts excessive pressure on the board and components. Both situations degrade thermal performance. Thermal Putty solves this. It conforms to any gap between components in the heat sink, spreading evenly under pressure to create consistent contact and better heat transfer across uneven surfaces. There's no guesswork about thickness, no intricate cutting, and far less risk of poor contact on smaller chips or VRMs. Now let's pick the right thermal material. For the PS5, the best like-for-like upgrade over stock pads is Thermal Grizzly TG Putty Advance. It balances performance and ease of use. If you want maximum thermal headroom, choose TG Putty Pro. The TG Putty Basic version has lower thermal conductivity and is only worth considering if cost matters more than performance. Use only a plastic tool to lift and remove the old pads from the metal plate. I recommend using a plastic tool to avoid scratching the surface, which could lead to potential corrosion of the metal. After removal, wipe all contact areas with isopropyl alcohol to remove residue. Clean surfaces ensure the new thermal interface adheres properly and transfers heat efficiently. We're done with the metal plate. Now let's move to the motherboard. Use only a plastic spatula to lift off the old thermal pads and work slowly to avoid damaging nearby components. After removal, clean the pad areas with isopropyl alcohol and a cotton swab. Be extremely careful around resistors, capacitors, and inductors. If you need to clear residue from SMD parts, use only an anti-static brush. The motherboard is now ready for fresh thermal putty. As mentioned earlier, TG Putty comes in 3 variants: Basic, Advance, and Pro, differentiated mainly by thermal conductivity. Basic offers mid-range performance, Advance is high performance, and Pro provides the best thermal headroom. I'll be using TG Putty Advance because it offers the best balance of price and performance. Its color also matches the factory compound Sony uses in the PS5. Apply the thermal putty with the included spatulas or any convenient plastic spatula. Spread a wide, even layer size to each component area, SSD controller, VRMs, SMD clusters, keeping it thin and uniform. Avoid connectors and screw posts. If you prefer to form it into pad shapes, use blunt-ended tweezers to shape and place the putty. Aim for full contact with no gaps or air pockets. Slight overlap at the edges is fine, but don't over-apply. If you think you've applied too little, just add a small amount on top of the existing layer. The putty will compress under the shield plate, so aim for a continuous gap-free film, not bulges or thick ridges. Add gradually and avoid over-applying. So, how much thermal putty should you apply? The TG Putty series is a non-conductive spacer replacement designed to fill gaps from 0.2 mm to 3.0 mm. Aim to match the original interface thickness on each component. For example, VRAM chips originally use a thin layer, so only a small amount of putty is needed there. As a rule, it's safer to apply slightly more than too little. Under pressure, excess putty will squeeze out and fill the space. Applying too little can leave air gaps, which prevent proper heat transfer and can lead to overheating. On some SMD components, the original thermal interface was thicker. Apply enough thermal putty to fully fill the gap between the component and the metal cover. Use blunt-ended tweezers to shape the putty into a small pad over the part. When the cover goes on, the putty will spread evenly and cover the entire contact area. If you still have the old pads, use their height as a reference and shape the new putty pads slightly taller to guarantee contact. Thermal putty is electrically non-conductive, so don't worry if a little excess squeezes out around the SMD components. That's normal and safe. I've finished replacing the thermal pads on this side of the motherboard. Now, let's install it. Carefully installing the board, pay close attention to the metal prongs. Ensure that the metal prongs align with the power supply socket. Make sure the two notches line up correctly. That confirms the main board is fully seated. Secure the motherboard with 2 screws. Let's remove the old thermal interface from the top shield plate. Carefully lift off all thermal pads from the plate, then wipe every contact area with isopropyl alcohol to remove residue and ensure good adhesion for the new material. Next, move to the back of the motherboard and remove the pads there as well. Use only a plastic tool to lift pads from VRAM chips and SMD components to avoid scratching the metal surfaces or damaging components. When you remove the old thermal pads from the VRM area, be extremely careful. These big metal blocks are the chokes and MOSFETs, but around them you can see lots of tiny rectangular SMD resistors and capacitors. They are very fragile. Always lift the pad straight up using a plastic tool and peel it slowly. Do not drag the pad sideways or scrape with force, otherwise you can easily catch one of these tiny parts and rip it off the motherboard. If the pad is stuck, gently loosen it from the edges first or slightly warm it up, and only then remove it. Take your time. Don't rush any step. Patience is the key to a clean, successful repair. Always use only plastic tools near connectors and SMD components. Slow, careful work is what protects components and delivers the best result. Clean the exposed areas with isopropyl alcohol and a cotton swab. Apply the thermal putty to the VRAM chips in the same way you did earlier, a thin, even layer size to each part with full coverage and no gaps. Remember, some SMD components originally used thicker pads, so add a slightly larger amount of putty in those areas to ensure proper contact once the shield is installed. The putty will compress and spread under pressure. At this point, all required motherboard components are covered with thermal putty. We can proceed with reassembly and then test the PS5 to confirm temperatures and performance with the new thermal interface. Install the bracket with plastic arms first, then place the metal bracket on top, aligning the holes. Tighten the two screws alternately, a few turns at a time, to apply even pressure to the APU. Don't crank one down all the way first. Reinstall the top shield plate Secure the top shield plate with 26 screws. Reinsert all cables into their sockets, lock any latches, replace the metal cover, and secure the screws. Secure the motherboard and heatsink assembly to the case with 2 screws. Route and reconnect the antenna tables in their original positions. Install the optical drive and reconnect both ribbon cables. Install the top plastic cover over the motherboard and secure it with screws. Install the expansion slot cover and secure it with the screw. Install the fan and connect the cable to its socket. Secure the fan with 4 screws. Finally, slide the faceplate back until it clicks into place. The PS5 is now fully assembled. Connect it, power it on, and run a load test. Repeat the test again after 24 hours. After a few warm-up cycles, the system will settle slightly. Recheck fan noise and temperatures under load to confirm everything is performing as expected. If this guide was helpful, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more repair tutorials. Visit our website for more tech insights and do-it-yourself guides. Remember, every tech challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. If you have any questions about PS5 maintenance, please feel free to ask them in the comments. By the way, if you spilled a sugary drink on your PS5 controller and the buttons are sticking, check out my tutorial on cleaning and restoring the DualSense controller. For additional details, check out the useful links in the description below. Thanks for watching How-FixIT. See you next time.